Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Policy shapers and lawmakers call for more participation of women and youth in politics. And former President Goodluck Jonathan advocates for the independence of electoral bodies in Africa. Well, this is Plus Politics, and I am Mary Anna Cole. As 2023 approaches, the challenge before the Nigerian electorate is not just the choice of a good candidate, but a candidate that reflects and understands true democracy and will also be able to accommodate the youth, women, and society at large. In February of 2021, an Oyo State lawmaker in the House of Representatives, Tolulokwe Akonde, called on leaders of political parties to make provisions for more women and youth participation in politics. But the question is, how ready are we to reposition our polity? Well, joining us to discuss this is broadcast journalist Gabriela Anyanwu. She's also a public affairs analyst, Sonny Maduka, and former founder, Policy Shapers, Ebenezer Wekina. Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Marianne.
Great. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Maduka, because many have been calling for, captains of industries, the elites, those who are more famous even than politicians, to get into the ring and also be part of, the political reshaping of Nigeria. But unfortunately, we keep hearing that age-long story of, oh, politics is a dirty game. But we see these captains of industries and people who have proven track records in leading companies or parastatals, saying that we see them gather together, rallying around behind the career politicians, throwing their supports behind them, but they never really want to come forward to run for office. So again, the people who are calling for these elites to run for office, could it be that maybe there's something in those elites that we see that is way better than the people they support, who are career politicians, who at some point may have let us down?
Yeah, you started it well, because politics is a career, whether you like it or not. And when you see people like Dangote or Tedola supporting somebody, it's part of the politics interests. Politics is not for everybody anyway, but coming to the topic we're talking about, in terms of women participation, the allies participation, we have a problem. And the problem stems from the constitution and, of course, the money involved. Some guys that are good, have that integrity, could be measured in principle and value. The money aspect of it is what is driving a lot of people out of politics. And that is not good enough, because we are already losing a lot. Those who are supposed to be career politics are not there. What we have today are people who were fortunate that in 1999, when politics came on board, they were able to tap from what was the debris in 1993. Because after 1993, a lot of those who ought to be in politics lost hope. after the annulment. So when 1999 came on board, a lot of those career politicians didn't come on board. It was who took risk that came on board. And we are looking at this scenario as something that will fizzle out. 1999, within short time, the military will take over. But we are seeing that we are having 20 years plus. So now it's now dawning on everybody that, look, that risk could have been taken then, but people didn't take that risk. And unfortunately, those people that hijack that political arena sat down to now manipulate the entrance point. The entrance point is the political manifestos. So you can see that before you even vie for ordinary councillorship, you have to have some money, which ought not to be. That is why some people are not going into politics, because it has been bastardized. Politics is no more for service. It's not for. It's now become selfish idea by few individuals. Politics is supposed to be where people that want to serve know that they are serving humanity. It's not for themselves. But unfortunately, you see, in Nigeria today, we have politics that's for me, my family, my friends. So it's no more for the people. So this is the reason why some people are not going in. Then the other one is the security aspect of it. You saw what is happening in Anambra today. Who will go to politics? Who is sent? So some people who are sent cannot go into politics because it's becoming a winner takes all. It's becoming a butchering arena. People are no more, the sacredness of human life is no more there. So everybody is doing everything as if we're in a jungle.
We're complaining about all of these things. How do we sanitize the system if we're all going to stay out there and say, well, we can't, don't dirty, we can't get ourselves dirty. This is not for us. Like you have said, oh, it's not for people who are sane. But how can we make the atmosphere or that arena, as you put it, sane if we, the so-called sane people, do not dare, like you said earlier on, to also take that risk?
Yeah, you can only take a risk where you have a platform that is for everybody. The platform is already deformed. The platform where you can easily enter into politics is not for everybody. Like I just said, look at the manifestos of all the parties. You discover before you galvanize it, before even engaging, you expected to have a godfather, you expected to have a certain amount of money. So people are not looking at the integrity of the participant or the candidate. People are looking at what are you bringing on table, which not ought to be, because people are coming to serve. But if you see the platform, the foundation of this politics, like I said, has been distorted, because the issue about bringing policies that whereby people can enter freely is not there. We don't have independent candidates in this country. Look at even the electoral reform bill that was passed. You can see that there are still problems there. People are saying, look, this must be done in terms of transmitting results, and people are saying no. We are looking at not too young to run. Yeah, it's good, but not too young to run. What are the basis? Because a young man who has no money cannot venture into the Nigerian politics arena today. So the bottom line, let me just say it, is that we need to go back to the drawing board and look at our constitution and see how we can give room for everybody to participate. But for now, the politics in Nigeria is an enclosed entity. That if you want to enter, there are things, conditions that some of us cannot, kind of allow ourselves to be part of it. So that is the issue. If there's open field, if everybody can participate, if people are coming to serve because they want to serve, not because of have to belong to certain society, have to belong to certain person. Somebody must mentor me in terms of money back that will accelerate my movement into that. Somebody must nominate me. So you see, politics is not why for certain people I call the same individuals.
Let me come to Ebenezer. Ebenezer, you obviously founded Policy Shapers because you wanted to, of course, change the mindsets of the people, young people who are coming up and see how they can also infiltrate the system. But the youth and women are mostly the cake for the conversation tonight. How do you even begin to tell or sell the idea of being a policy shaper or even getting involved in any form of policy making or politics in its entirety to a young person who already has seen the picture that's been painted by Dr. Maduka?
Yes, I mean, Dr. Maduka raises a very good point, and truly, what he's saying is the sad truth. It's a really crazy arena out there. However, I think that is even the reason why the sane people, in quotes, need to even go in there. I mean, last year, I joined the political party in Nigeria last year, and sometime last year, we also founded the Policy Shapers platform. And we didn't think that we would get as much acceptance as we got. I mean, our community now has over 270 young people who are constantly engaged in policy conversation, whether it's on bills in Nigeria, policies all across the world. I mean, we've taken part in 3 global policy hackathons at Stanford and MIT, just trying to see how we can even just spark the interest. I think that is where it usually starts. It's mostly about interest. And at some point, I think the interest of so many people who I think represent the best of Nigeria was lost at the point where, as Dr. Maduka mentioned, the point where certain people got in and took hold of that space, right? So I think that early adoption is what is going to be very key. There's nothing wrong to begin teaching political education. I mean, I know we learn civic studies and stuff, but it's mostly just theory. But there's nothing wrong with teaching people to actually become engaged in the civic space from secondary schools. Really, they don't need to even get to universities. From primary schools, secondary schools, need to know about parties, etc. I mean, I'm imagining that if I got into a political party, I mean, I'm 28 years now. If I got into a political party about 5 years ago, what I would have learned over time, I would definitely be way better than where I am now, starting, from scratch, learning about the rudiments, understanding how members do different things and learning about inter-party politics. Mm-hmm. So I think that is interest, and we do have a huge role to play to stimulate the interest in young people very, very early on. And although everything that Dr. Maduka has painted is true, I think we still need to go in there, because if we don't, I was discussing with a couple of friends on Twitter a few days ago, if we don't go in there, when would we actually go in there? I mean, we say, oh, things are bad, things are dirty, but that is often because people who had taken over the space have been able to dominate it for, 15, 16 years. So imagine if we need another 15 years to change the narrative. If we don't go in now, when are we going to go in?
Many throw around the statement, or rather the coinage, the office of the citizen of the Federal Republic. We throw it around, but do we really know what that office entails? Do we know the power that comes with that office? Because that's another thing. We see a lot of young people. Now, let me just digress. The people who snatch ballot boxes, those who are engaged in banditry, those who are shooting up the place in Anambra, in Aba, these are mostly young people. My father, at his age, would not be doing that. It would be ridiculous for him to be doing that, gun running and all of those things. It's the young people that are the ones that are being used, whether they're doing it for political parties or politicians or for all kinds of, strange reasons. It's young persons. So again, it calls to question how ready we are to take on the future. Because when it's pre-election season, we see these kinds of conversations come up. Oh, the youth needs to come and take their place. Women need to get involved in politics. But in reality, the young people seem not to understand how powerful they are. So where do we even start? I like what you're doing, and you're touching a few lives, but how many more young people are taking advantage of the situation to engage more young people, whether they be interested in politics or not, but in terms of the roles that they have to play in society, because ultimately it affects us one way or the other. Ebenezer, that question was for you. Ebenezer, can you hear me? Oh, I think we lost him. Let me throw that question to Gabriela. Gabriela, I know that you are a journalist. You I think this is your life every day. You're talking every day.
Yes, I mean, is it...
Okay, I think Ebenezer is
so
back.
It's
Okay,
a good
go
thing
ahead.
that you mentioned. Yes, I can hear you.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh my goodness, I think that we're having a connection issue there. So Gabriela, please take this up.
Yes, I am. So I was saying that young are definitely diverse.
Ebenezer, if you can hear me, we're having connection issues with you and we can barely hear you. So we're going to allow Gabriela to take this one, okay? Gabriela, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Go ahead.
So I think that it's a very interesting question because this is our reality. I kind of think that, the norm, politics is a dirty game, has sunk in so deep into our subconscious. And so with every generation after the other, we learn and hear people always say, oh, politics is a dirty game. And so we grow up as women and young people not wanting to engage in politics because we presume that politics is supposedly a dirty game for the adults. And I think that's a very wrong notion. I also think that's why we have become so complacent when it comes to politics. I mean, just like Dr. Madka mentioned earlier, how many Nigerian women and young people are card-carrying members of a political parties? You would find the numbers to be very, very, very low. Think about the population of Nigeria, for instance. Women make 9% of that figure. Half of that percentage are eligible to vote. How many of these women actually come out to cast their votes? How many women engage in conversations bordering politics and, governance and the economy? How many young people today are interested in having such conversations? Think about, for instance, the president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, in the military regime. Think about when he started, involving in governance and leadership at a very young age. How many 25-year-olds, for instance, do we have right now who are engaging stakeholders, who are asking questions, demanding accountability? We don't have all of that right now because we have grown so accustomed to the idea and the thinking that, politics is for the elderly people, is for the older people. Right now, I need to just focus on, having a great time with my life. And it ought not to be so. I think that we need a reorientation. We need to be able to, create or spark a new level of consciousness to say, look, the Nigeria we so desire, the Nigeria we so anticipate to enjoy in the future lies on my shoulders as a Nigerian, lies upon me as an individual first. So it's beautiful that we have young people. I will not deny the fact, such as Mr. Ebenezer Wikina, who is doing amazing right now, but he can't do that all alone. We need more young people taking the bull by the horn and realizing that, look, policy, politics, economy, conversations about governance and leadership actually rests on our shoulders. Just like you mentioned earlier, these young people who go about, working for, the leaders who go about, carrying out illegal, corrupt activities, especially when it regards to elections, they do that using the services of these young boys. If you know that your vote actually counts, you would not engage or sell it for 1,000 naira or for a couple of thousands.
But Gabriela, let me take you on there. It's easy for us, for you and I, who have had access to education. We've gone to great universities. We've got good jobs, to sit on our high horses and say that, oh, if these people do not know the power of their votes, blah, blah, blah. But do we really look at the reason why these people are where they are? We've had leaders come and go who've promised to give good education, to give access to healthcare. And some of them grew up in the worst areas and really have nothing to hold on to. I remember when I spoke to Sheikh Gumi, he talked about the fact that there was poverty, some of these people were abandoned by their governments, and this is their own way of getting back at government. I'm not in any way saying that what they're doing, especially the bandits, is great, but we fail to address, maybe we do fail to address the reasons why we have these kinds of upsurges or why we have these non-state actors come to play. Can we just sit here on our high horses and point fingers and not take into consideration what must have thrown these sets of people up?
I think that's why we need the people who are already in power, of course, speaking about women now and the young people who are already in some level of leadership, to take the bull by the horn. You're supposed to be at the top of the ladder. You're supposed to be able to pick others as you come up. Because like you mentioned, it's a valid problem. It's a challenge. Poverty, illiteracy. You cannot go to, for instance, the rural areas right now and say, oh, your vote count. They don't even understand what you're saying. And for this message to get to the grassroots, it behoves on the people who are already in some, participating in leadership at whatever level to take the bull by the horn and pick others as they climb up. We have some young people who are in their 40s, who are 45-year-olds, who are either in the House of Assembly, who are, in the Senate. We have people right now who are in some level of participation. What are they doing? We can't expect a miracle to happen. And all of a sudden, we're seeing, the numbers rising just because some miracle happened and everybody suddenly realized that, oh, I have the power. It will never happen. That is why we have to keep the conversations going, making the demand of the already existing leaders that we have, especially the young ones among them. So what are the young people doing in leadership? What are they doing?
I want to go back.
I think that because if we can make demand of these people who are in the Senate, who are in the House of Assembly, to involve, not just involve, engage foundationally these other people in the rural and grassroots, then I think we'll well be on our way to a better engagement and participation in politics.
I want to go back to Dr. Maduka now and still talking about, I remember I put it down because you talked about us revisiting our constitution and making it accommodate a lot of things. You also make mention of the fact that, the Electoral Act bill, which is supposed to be signed into law, still has, some hiccups, and Nigerians are still pushing and dragging for the National Assembly to agree to the electronic, wholesome electronic transfer of results or transmitting of results, and that's a case on its own. But let's not forget that these politicians that we're complaining of, these so-called corrupt or people who are not up to the task, are the people who occupy these offices. They're the people who occupy our National Assembly. And if we're asking for a change of sorts, can we be asking those people to make a change that would one way or the other cut off their arm or cut off their nose to spite their face? So how do we even go about it?
Yeah, there's this phrase I used to say. I say a bad governor, a bad government will always be defended by those who benefit from it. That's exactly what I can use in summarizing what you asked. Like you said, who are those that are benefiting from being the highest paid legislator in the whole world? Legislators. So if you look at it from that, you discover that what Gabriela said and of course Ebenezer said, they are in synchrony. Look at it this way. In Nigeria today, the Constitution is telling you that there are things you must do for you to get into position. One of them is that you must have at least basic qualification. And today, the Constitution has a dichotomy because even from all, I don't want to go deeper, even from the person who is leading us today, what qualification? But can this thing happen to other requests? No. So there's a dichotomy. Secondly, there's something that Gabriela said about women participation. Women cannot participate because the men in politics do not regard women. Let me give you an instance. One of the legislators came one day to the house, and all that he can boast of is to tell the house that he has 4 wives, and they can obey him even if he tell them to go anywhere. This is the problem. And if you look at our tradition, our religion, many women cannot come out because some of them are not allowed except in the other room. So women enlightenment is important. Unfortunately, we don't have women advocates. Women advocates that can go and liberate these women that have been imprisoned by our menfolk.
But there are a few of them. There are lots of women who are trying to shape,
there are a few of them,
the mindset
not,
of other women.
They are not forceful enough. For instance, if they are forceful enough, the women in Nigeria, if they are first led of, should go deeper to understand that girls' child marriage is evil. How can you marry somebody who's 8 years, 12 years, to somebody who is a politician and nobody talks about it? So you are not taking that person to court. But in your registration of our SIM card, you say it's only from age 18. But you don't see anything wrong for a woman who is 8 years, 12 years, 14 years to get married to a politician. So there's a dichotomy. You see, when you talk about nationhood building,
I think that...
it's not about patriotism.
Okay.
It's not about people who want to really see that it's not about us, it's about others. But of course, fortunately, we don't have them. For the youth you're talking about, we have youth today. What are they doing? Are they not part of it? Like Beneza said, some of the youth are the ones being used by these recycled leaders. Look at it this way. Our youth today, they wanted to do something. They wanted to revolutionize Nigeria. We started with NSAS. Who are the people who truncated NSAS? Who are the people who were ahead to truncate the same youth? We have basically, historically, we have youth before, Dimeji Bankole, we have Dogara, we have Bukari, Sakari, Saraki, we have other people, also Jokano, Ken Namani. All these are youth. What impact did they bring in to ensure that some things change for the betterment of every Nigerian? For today, if there's any youth we are all clamoring for, a few of them, of course, everybody will talk about INEC today because he's standing. He's the only person one can look at. Look around you. Who is your mentor among even the recycled ones and the youth? So there's no way you can point out which is the basis of every government or every nation development. There must be somebody that people will point out and say, this is somebody who is taking us to the El Dorado. Unfortunately, Nigeria, no, for now.
Okay, I don't know if Ebenezer is back, so this question is for you. We're talking about all the problems, but I always like to point to...
Yes, I am.
Yes, I always like to point to solutions. 2023 is around the corner. The politicians are, repositioning themselves. They are strategizing. Political parties are also strategizing. We're hearing that this person is moving to that party, back and forth. What about us, the people? What do we do also to position ourselves so that we do not get carried by the same wind that carries us away every single time we gear up for elections?
Yeah, I mean, the first and most important thing is to get registered. 71% of every new voter so far have been young people. And we are continuing, within policy shapers and even outside, we're continuing to see how we can make more young people register. Because it's only when you register that you can even have a chance to show and to choose someone, right? That's usually the first step. The second step is usually during political season, conversations usually come up about biases. There are a whole lot of things that come up to distract people. But in this current political season, we're trying to see how we use social media to force the conversation to be about issues, the key development issues. Let us stop discussing about where the person is from, what is wearing, etc. Let's begin to discuss, what have you done before you even came here? What's your track record? Most politicians just appear overnight, and run for a particular position without showing that they've done a similar thing that they're promising. So let's begin to ask questions, strong questions. And answers for me gave me a lot of hope. Sometime last year, just like almost every young person, I was beginning to think about, how can I write this test or write this exam to travel out of the country? But answers, as successful as it was, or unsuccessful as people will say, it showed that it's actually possible to actually rally around people and get people to unite on a common cause. For the first time for me in Nigeria, our parents say it happened in their time. But for me, for the first time in my life, I saw that happen for my own generation. We're able to rally together. And so that shows that we do have some sort of inherent power that we can use to push good causes forward. We just need to be able to say we want to do it. We just need to say, let us actually do it. And once we have that agreement, I'm sure we can go forward. So to summarize, I'll say, let us register. and let us make sure that the conversations are pushed forward. I mean, I'm happy for people like Gabriela and for Plus TV that continues to push conversations about issues, and those are the things we need to discuss. Let's forget about all the other things that take us away. Let's talk about the issues and the track record.
All right. And final words, Gabriela, because you're the lady, so we're going to be biased about it. Like I said earlier on, it's the women folk women are the ones who are called to, they're like the shakers and the movers in political parties, but what positions do they hold? Treasurer or women leader? They hardly make it to party chairman or even vice chairman or even spokespersons. We hardly see them in those positions. So if you're asking women to be part of political parties, how many more women can they rally to support them? Because the boys will always be there for the boys. It's a boys' club. How can the women also form a women's club within the boys' club?
You see, I think it's a really sad situation we found ourselves in Nigeria. It's as though we take 2 steps forward and 5 steps backward. I remember a time in Nigeria where we had a female presidential candidate, and we all know what happened. Not even her family showed up to vote to support her. So it's a really sad situation. Away from just reigniting that consciousness, I think that women in particular, especially, my major concern is for women who are already in politics. I think that the bulk of the responsibility falls on their tables. They ought to rise to the occasion and pull these other women up. So yes, indeed, the men would obviously be gearing right now towards the next elections come, 2023, and none of these men would be considering the women. So the women obviously have been left to fend and fight for themselves. I don't think we're fighting hard enough. So in closing, I'll just say that the women who are already in politics at whatever level ought to rise to the responsibility. What are they doing right now? How actively are they pursuing the cause for women? You would find that in Nigeria, the kind of politics we play, just like Dr. Maduka said earlier on the show, it's quite sad because in other climes, for instance, you would find women who are championing causes for more percentage of participation for women, for young people. Even some men also fight that cause. But here in Nigeria, we all know what politics is here. Either you're siphoning funds, you're enlarging your coast, or you're just about your own selfish interest. It ought not be so. And this is just a glaring example and a show to see how deeply we have failed as a system, how terribly the system we're currently operating under is failing and is a complete mess. We need actively to change, and that change starts with us realizing that as women who are already in the local government council, in the Senate, House of Assembly, whatever level, you have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to push for more women like you to come into leadership. Then and only then we'll even have a flicker of hope and begin to ask other women to be card-carrying members at the very least.
Well, I want to say thank you. Gabriela Anyanwu is a broadcast journalist. Dr. Sunny Maduka is a political analyst. And Ebenezer Wekina is the founder of Policy Shapers. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen, for this very interesting conversation. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Marianne.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We'll take a short break now. When we return, former President Goodluck Jonathan seeks independence of African electoral bodies. Is it achievable in Nigeria? Stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thought and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan has stressed the need for electoral management bodies in Africa to be free to discharge their responsibilities in order to deliver credible elections. He also enjoined African lawyers across the continent to use their calling to promote justice, equity, and the rule of law. Well, joining us to discuss this are lawyers, Obinna Chukwu and Emeka Nwaduke. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
So this is a clarion call of sorts by the former president. Of course, he's not just talking about Nigeria, but he's talking about electoral bodies across Africa. But we're in Nigeria, so let's use Nigeria here as the case study. Now, it's very interesting that we have so many government departments and agencies that have the appendage independent, but are not necessarily independent in reality because of the person who decides to pick the head of that ministry or that department or that agency. And this is ditto for INEC. And so a lot of people have queried the independence of INEC over and over again. And the question again is here. How independent is INEC? I'm going to start with you, Barrister Nwaduke. Is INEC anywhere close to the independence that begins, its name?
Thank you so much. It's a difficult one to really say, that INEC is independent. A lot of commentators believe that the independence attached to its name is essentially nominal. Although we can say that maybe over time, INEC has tried to do one or two things to improve on its performance and maybe try to, strengthen its independence, so to speak. But essentially, we can say that it's work in progress.
But the fact that the person who leads or heads INEC is nominated by the president, whoever he is, and then, of course, ratified by the National Assembly, does that not call to question where his allegiance or his where he takes his orders from? Because that's also been part of the debate over time.
You've actually raised a very fundamental issue, because appointment of key officers of INEC is a fundamental drawback on its purported independence. So you see a situation where the INEC chairman is nominated by, appointed by the president and ratified by the National Assembly. All the national officers or national commissioners are appointed by the president. So it's a major challenge because when, for instance, we even see a situation where perhaps the sitting president who is seeking re-election is, has a mandate to appoint all these people. So, as they say, he who pays the piper, or he, maybe in this instance, who nominates the piper, dictates the tune. So it's quite a major challenge, and maybe as we go on, we may try to explore how we can tackle this major drawback.
Barrister Chukwu, again, some of the issues that have been raised in terms of independence of INEC, just as I said, is also the fact that they still have to depend financially on, the federal government per se. There's a lot of signing off that has to be done by, the presidency or the federal government instead of it getting independence, because independence is not just about it not being nominated or the head not being nominated or appointed by Mr. President. It also has to do with his finances. But looking at the Nigerian Constitution as it is, how easy is it for us to single-handedly make INEC independent without having to go back into the Constitution to change some things?
Okay, let me once more say thank you for having me. Before I go to this question, I will say that appointment of the INEC officials, to me, may not be the reason why the INEC is not independent. It may not be the reason, because no matter how you juggle it, no matter how you weave it around, somebody must still appoint somebody. And nobody will just wake up and announce to Nigerians that he or she is now the chairman of Independent National Electoral Commission. Somebody will still have to appoint the person. But what I want to say is that appointment is not the problem. The problem is the institutions, weak institutions that we have in Nigeria. That's why it's as if whoever that is appointed can now or has the leverage to pander towards a political party or live in accordance with the apron strings of whoever that appointed him. But if we have strong institutions, for instance, let's say the security agencies, the police is independent, the institution of the police is strong, the military is strong, and all other, the anti-corruption agency is strong, and all the other institutions that have subtle or visible check on other institutions, that will help. Then again, secondly, from what you asked, whether or not we could do that without the Constitution, I do not think that we can do that without the Constitution. Look at what has happened in Nigeria within the past 3 or 4 years. There were state governors or even a president in Nigeria where Nigerians came out, protested and shouted, this government must go and all that, and tried all kinds of ways to protest on the streets, at least to have the government go. The government will not go. Why? Because there is a constitutional provision that provides for how a president, how a governor can be removed from office. So it doesn't matter what the governor does. It doesn't matter what the president does. Even if the president is not ruling Nigeria or not festering or spreading economic largesse to Nigerians, no matter how much protest you carry out on the street, the president cannot go, because again, the Constitution has provided that the only way or has provided for ways through which a president can be removed from office. It therefore means that once those processes are not activated or utilized, the president cannot be removed from office, Neither can the governor. It doesn't matter how the governor is behaving.
Okay.
The governor may be apologetic without being rude. The governor may become recalcitrant. And yet the Constitution says your position as the governor will still continue until the end of your term. And as if that is not even enough, I think section 308 or 305 or so also weaves around the immunity. So for us to have an independent electoral commission, number one, we must ensure that their finances are come through the first line. It must not be the executive that must, or neither is it the legislators that gives them money. The money must come the same way that the executive gets their money from the first line charge or whatever. Their money must be there. Then secondly, they must have immunity. They must have immunity from actions taken in order to conduct free and fair election. Then thirdly, they must not be removed until put it in the same process, in the same procedure, tedious procedure that the Constitution provided or provides for in the impeachment of a governor, in the impeachment of a president. Okay. If you do all this, anybody, even if the president appoints the person, if the person gets there and becomes corrupt, strong institution will pick up the person and the needful will be done. But if we fail to do all this, I can tell you, we'll continue to talk. It will always form a talking point, and no action will be taken.
All right, let me go back to Barrister Madueke quickly because we're almost out of time. He's saying that we need strong institutions as opposed to worrying about who appoints who into office, because of course an appointment or a nomination has to take place for someone to occupy the office. And he's given us some key points that he thinks that if we follow, we can help to change the situation. Is INEC going to be the litmus test in building strong institutions? Is there a real power to even want to start the idea of building strong institutions when we know, or if, for example, and when I say we here, I'm talking about everyone, including the politicians, know that they might one day have their day in court, or they might be the ones who will be receiving the short end of the stick. Do we see that happening anytime soon? I think you need to unmute yourself. We cannot hear you.
Yes, just like my colleague said, it's essentially about financial independence and maybe, of course, the level of, appointment independence also. So you are looking at a situation, because presently anyway, their fund come from the, consolidated fund. So to that extent, you can say that funding-wise, they are okay. But then again, you also look at the aspect of even removal, and you discover that probably they cannot be removed without two-thirds majority in the National Assembly, vis-a-vis the state counterpart also. But the fundamental aspect is still this appointment issue. If we can be able to weave it out of the ambit of the president or the state governor, look at, for instance,
Mr. Madueke, are you there? I think we're having connection issues, unfortunately, but we have to wrap things up because we're almost out of time. Emeka Madueke and Obinna Chukwu are lawyers. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Unfortunately, we have to go.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We will take a short break now to see what Nigerians have to say about women and youth participation in politics. And right after that, I'll be saying my goodbyes.
Okay, I think we need more inclusion of women in politics than it is presently. You understand? And because if we look across board in different organizations, we've seen women doing great and massively well in whatsoever thing they do. And of recent, we've been seeing the very much more inclusion of women in the banking sector, being the MD of several banks. So women in politics, they are on the low side, and we think we need more of them. because of what they can do. Though, even though I'm not going to subscribe 100% what a man can do, a woman can do better, but definitely the word is what it is. What a man can do, a woman can do much more okay and very well also.
In Nigeria, I don't think we've tried a lot of women and they failed us. Like the former Minister of Petroleum is only one that if till date they will still be inviting her, but she's late now. Dora Akunyili, that was the NAFDAC lady, and the former Minister of Finance. Those are just the two women. Outside that, most of them you see, I don't know how they are using them. They will just embezzle money, and so maybe the youth, the younger ones coming up now, maybe they will be better. I don't know. So my opinion is they should give them a chance and see.
Women are no more in politics, and we advise a government to allow them to join in politics so that everything will go well in this country.
Women in politics, it's like it's both sides. But sometimes when they give the woman the chance to be in politics, they provide more. But when they don't give the woman the chance in politics, they don't provide more. So that is it.
Okay.
Well, we want to thank you all for staying with us. It's been Plus Politics on Plus TV Africa. I am Mary Anacon, thanking you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. And don't forget to follow us on our social media, on Instagram and on Facebook, and you can watch our shows live on YouTube at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. Have a good evening.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
It's also equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, they go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Decision point. The way your baby is presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you? Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
have
showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, "You can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house." I said, "Well, it's my body and it's my front room."
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is a man's precious possession. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord